Aston Martin had a fairy tale start to the season, with many thinking that they may just be Red Bull's closest competitor. However, as in life, reality struck. And let's just say the green machine of Aston Martin has slowed down, and with that the optimism has faded. As the optimism fades, it looks like Lawrence's interest of F1 has faded with it. The Canadian billionaire has heavily invested into the race team, and it looks like his patience may now be running out. Want to know what is happening at Aston Martin and what Lawrence Stroll has to say about it? Also, is it finally the end for Lance and Alonso in the green of Aston Martin? Stick around to find out. Aston Martin's start to the season was impressive to say the least, with the green machine upstaging the more dominant Mercedes and Ferrari. We'll be honest, we didn't see it coming either, and while we're being honest, if you predicted Aston Martin's sudden rise to the top, you're either lying or you're related to the Strolls. Jokes aside, the start to the season brought out the best of Alonso, and the Spaniard finally looked to have his mojo back, and the team seemed to only be going up from there. Well, as we all know, it's not quite gone to plan for Aston Martin and Alonso. The team has had a disappointing run of results, and in Japan it looks like the lack of performance is finally getting to the Spaniard, with his radio messages not exactly the happy-chappy messages we had at the beginning of the season. The Spaniard had this to say to the team after they dropped him in traffic at Suzuka. "You've thrown me to the lions by stopping me early, mate. Unbelievable," he said over the radio. The experienced race driver did say that he was not annoyed or angry with his team, but rather it was FOM's fault for showing them in a bad light. Not angry, he told motorsport.com of his radio exchange with the team. "I think it's the classic theme, the classic FOM radio, completely out of context," said Alonso. Anyone who's been following F1 for a while may just be having deja vu with Alonso, as genuinely the life cycle of Alonso at a racing team goes like this. Alonso jumps in the car, it looks ultra fast. The car becomes slow and he blames external factors. The car then becomes even slower and he starts to blame the team live on track and on screen, and then the final stage is Alonso leaving under a big storm cloud, and it's normally explosive and attracts a lot of media attention. So where are we currently in the life cycle of Alonso at an F1 team? Probably close to when he starts to blame the team live on screen and in the media. And if you don't agree with us, then we're not the only ones thinking it, with Lawrence Barretto thinking the same thing. "I think it's always interesting that Fernando is becoming more vocal on the radio, because even in the difficult days earlier in the season, when they didn't get everything right, he was level-headed and he was cool and playing the team game. But more of those messages are keeping through, and if they're creeping through, it's because he's frustrated by what he's seeing, what he's feeling, and what they're doing," said Barretto. You're probably all thinking that he is probably right to be annoyed with how the team has performed, but we all know that an upset Alonso can be quite disruptive, something that Barretto is also keen to point out. And I think it's a difficult spot for Aston Martin if you're the team principal or the engineers, because a frustrated Alonso is only going to heap the pressure on everyone inside that team, and it's not what they need right now. They need calm, clear heads to try and understand what's going on. It also looks like Alonso is not the only one getting over Aston Martin. Lawrence Stroll also looks to be getting over the Silverstone-based team. The Canadian billionaire with an estimated worth of $3.65 billion has invested heavily into the Aston Martin outfit after he bought the former Racing Point team back in March 2021. Stroll then went on to outline a 5-year plan for Aston Martin to be challenging for F1 world titles, with a big part of the blueprint being a new state-of-the-art facility out of which the team will operate. The cost of this project was around £200 million and around $250 million. I mean, by the sounds of it, what they're building will allow Aston Martin to elevate themselves from a mid-table team to top of the pile. They just need to make sure that they can race for the full calendar and not just the beginning of the season. So you're probably thinking, with all this investment, why would Lawrence even consider selling up? We can't lie and pretend that we know a billionaire, and if you do, please step in and tell us who it is. But what we do know about billionaires is they want a return in their investment, and they certainly didn't get to where they are by just throwing money at useless investments, and after Aston Martin's recent results, we would also be thinking of selling our shares in Aston Martin. Year-on-year figures show that the turnover rose from £150 million to just under £188 million thanks to increased sponsorship investments as well as increased prize money. However, gross profit dropped from £42.7 million to just £35.5 million. The directors, including Lawrence Stroll, received no remuneration for the company in 2022. Overall, the statements show that Aston Martin made a loss of £52.9 million in 2022, up from £43.3 $3 million in 2021, taking into account other forms of income such as UK government grants. If you're not a financial person, even you can see that those are not good results, and if you are Lawrence Stroll, then you may be thinking that it's time to sell up, especially if a great offer comes in for your underperforming asset. Well, according to reports, that's exactly what Lawrence Stroll is thinking of doing, as he is reportedly considering selling his shares in Aston Martin, and thus the Formula One team, to a Saudi sovereign wealth fund. According to speculation, oil giant Aramco is said to be leading the negotiations for the sale, F1Insider.com reports. Now, I wonder what the value for an F1 team really is. Ryan Reynolds bought a 24% stake in Alpine for £171 million, valuing the British-French racing team at around £706 million and around $860 million. And according to the reports, the Saudi-backed fund will purchase the team for around $844 million. This is very close to the Alpine valuation, but if you're Lawrence Stroll, you must be thinking that your investment and the upward trajectory of the team is worth more than Alpine, unless we're being unfair to the French Ferrari. So a quick question for you: if you were Lawrence Stroll, would you consider selling Aston Martin? We'd probably consider it for around $1 billion. But if we were talking about Alpine, we would probably take a McFlurry lid and a packet of hobnobs. Let's be honest though, the racing team is really for his son Lawrence Stroll, but it looks like his son is not that interested in the team anymore, with an unnamed F1 insider thinking that there is truth to the claim that Lawrence Stroll may finally be giving up on making his son a world champion. Father and son once came to our factory to look at it. He said, "I have never seen such an interested father and such a disinterested son." I mean, let's be honest. Lawrence Stroll leaving might be the best for Aston Martin, but it seems like it's not going to happen anytime soon, so on to the next one. So what's really going on at Aston Martin? Officially, the Silverstone-based outfit denied the news. Lawrence has made it clear that the sale is out of the question. A spokesperson said, "The sport is more popular than ever, and the value of the team is constantly increasing. Nothing like this is planned." Billionaire fashion magnate Stroll, however, commented, "A sale is not planned at the moment, but we were approached. Formula One is a sport and a business that is on fire at the moment. I think we all know how tough it is to get into F1. I mean, just ask the Andretti team, as they have finally been accepted by the FIA. However, they're not even past the hardest part yet, as they may have been accepted by the FIA, but not yet all the F1 teams. Even Lawrence Stroll is not keen to add another racing team to the sport. I'm not so sure we are going to see them on the grid," Stroll said. He got approved by the FIA, however he also needs the FOM to vote in his favor, and so he's far from on the track just yet. I think 10 teams is the right amount of teams in Formula One today. The sport has never been in a better place than it is right now. It couldn't have more popularity and couldn't be more successful, and it's very simple. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Stroll also confirmed that his son Lance and Fernando Alonso will keep their seats next season, and also announced Aston Martin's return to the top class of Le Mans racing with their Valkyrie model. I mean, this doesn't sound like a man about to leave the sport, does it? Well, no, probably not.